now I'd like Araceli Jimenez to come up to start our plan program for the day.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. My name is Araceli Jimenez. I am 22 years old, and I grew up right here in Brooklyn, actually on 48th Street, right down there. And I am a digital organizer with the Sunrise Movement. But really today, first and foremost, I'm here primarily as a young person who is really, really scared for her future when faced with a daunting challenge as big as the climate crisis. Because the IPCC report gives us 12 years to transform our economy and our society away from fossil fuels, to lower our CO2 emissions to a place where we can have a future where we can live dignified lives. And I'm 22, so in 12 years I will be 34. And it's really hard to think about this because if we continue on our current trajectory, when I celebrate my 34th birthday, I will probably be a little more concerned about whether the air I'm breathing is poisoning me or whether the water I'm drinking is actually safe to consume. But even as I share that fear with everyone today, it's important to think that even the chance to worry about that future as something far off is in itself kind of a privilege, because right now the kids in the South Bronx are breathing in air with record levels of CO2. Right now, the children in Flint haven't had clean water for 5 years, and their brains are permanently damaged from the lead. So we have to remember that this is a crisis right now, and it's no longer a burden that's going to be shouldered by some hypothetical future generation. This is a crisis that is being felt by people my age and younger right now, today. And the worst part, you know, the real slap in the face is that we have known about this crisis for decades, for at least 20 years before I was even born, before I was even on this planet. And we also know who our opposition is. We know who the enemy is. We know who is responsible for this crisis. We know who has been buying off our politicians in the federal government. We know who has been spreading misinformation. We know who has funded smear campaigns that have stamped down even state-level legislation that was meant to tackle this crisis. We know who has been driving the oil industry and the plastic industry that has made pollution skyrocket over the past generation. And like so many other young people that are growing up with climate change as a really stark reality in our lives today, I'm not afraid to name that enemy. We know that the people responsible for this crisis are the fossil fuel billionaires and CEOs who have literally spent their entire careers protecting and growing their wealth and their companies and these extractive industries at the expense of our planet and our lives. And when we're faced with an opposition like that, when we're faced with an administration that continuously refuses to acknowledge that this crisis even exists, it's our responsibility to take action where we can. And for that reason, I'm so thankful that so many other young people like me are rising up to take action, whether it's going on strike just a month ago, or whether it's starting recycling programs in their local communities or in their schools, whether it's starting composting programs in their local schools and communities, or whether it's pressuring your state legislators to, take action, or whether it's, welcoming our mayors to take action with us, because we know that we are at a critical point in our country's history. Right? With this 12-year deadline, we are at a point where we have a choice, a really, really clear choice. We can either say, honestly, the choice is this: we can either give up, or we embrace our greatest, or we embrace courage and we embrace bravery in the face of this crisis. And so to be introducing Mayor de Blasio at this event, I'm proud to embrace bravery and courage with him and to make changes where we can. And so thank you everyone for listening, and thank you to Mayor de Blasio for, really listening to what the people crave in terms of climate action. And we know that this is just the beginning. I look forward to the future actions that the city will take to tackle this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. Araceli, I want to thank you. I hope everyone heard when Araceli put the 12 years in the context of her own life. And my children are almost exactly the same age. And to hear it put that way, that by the time you are only in your 30s, your life may be upended. The danger to this planet may be so severe that we're feeling it every single day in even worse ways. It makes it very personal, it makes it very real, and it makes it very urgent. We have to act constantly. And I want to pick up on the last point Araceli said. This is one action today, and there must be many more, and they must be frequent, they must be intense, they must be everywhere. But particularly important to me, that we very consciously wanted to give Araceli a platform because we better start listening to the new leadership coming up. We better start listening to their urgency and their clear sense of who did this to us and what we have to do to change it. Araceli, thank you for saying very plainly who the villain is here. Because sometimes in life, it is really clear. And the villain here is big oil. Fossil fuel industry did this to us. They did it knowingly. We have to come to grips with that, and we haven't yet as a nation. We have all been put in harm's way because an industry wanted more and more profit. Let's be clear. Big oil companies knew they were poisoning the earth. They knew it, and they hid the information. Let's be clear. The big oil companies know that their actions are exacerbating global warming every single day. They use all their power, all their money to keep us hooked on fossil fuels. In fact, every day they're planning to get us more hooked on fossil fuels. And they are destroying our lives in the process. And why, my friends? Simply to make a buck. That's exactly what's happening here. It's dangerous and it's unacceptable, and we won't stand for it. We're not going to talk about it the way we used to talk about it. We're going to talk about it the way Araceli talked about it, with the urgency and the anger and the resolve that we see in the leaders of the next generation. So let me be very clear about what we're doing today. Today, we say no to plastics. We say no to fossil fuels. We say yes to a better and fairer future. I want to say that this work has progressed because so many people care. We're going to be doing new things all the time. We're going to be doing things that would have been considered impossible, beyond reach, even just a few years ago, but it's because so many people have stood up. To all the environmental advocates and activists who are here, you have led the way. You've made ideas that once seemed out of reach possible. To all the disability advocates who are here, your leadership has helped us to solve the problem the right way, and your strong voices have helped us come up with the right policies. We thank you. And the members of my administration, I have seen the passion and the energy that you have all put into this effort. I want to thank all of you for your focus and your resolve. I don't hear members of my team say what we can't do. I hear them always looking for the next thing we can do. Special thanks to our DCAS Commissioner, Lizette Camillo, and our Acting Commissioner of Sanitation, Steve Costas, for all that their agencies are doing in this effort. Now, I hope today, when New Yorkers hear about this, they take it personally. I want people to take it personally. I want people to remember the day that we came to consciousness in this city, the day Hurricane Sandy hit. I always say there were very few climate change deniers left after Hurricane Sandy in this town, because we lost our fellow New Yorkers. We saw lives destroyed, homes destroyed, neighborhoods destroyed because of global warming caused by fossil fuels. Climate change is the existential threat. And we have to understand that plastics is inherently a big part of the problem. 99% of these products are derived from fossil fuels. And here's a simple way to think about it. 1 ounce of plastic creates 1 ounce of carbon dioxide. Every single time we purchase something plastic, we're taking a step in the wrong direction. Here in this city, Sanitation Department collects 36 million pounds of single-use plastic foodware from our homes every year. 36 million pounds. It's just unacceptable. It's not something we can afford to do anymore. Today, I will be signing an executive order to end the city's purchase of unnecessary single-use plastic foodware, and this executive order takes effect immediately because this crisis is happening right now. I'm talking about a whole variety of things that somehow we got used to, but we really don't need anymore. Plastic straws, plates, plastic bowls, plastic forks and knives, spoons, the child of knives and spoons, sporks. Oh, no, sorry, it's child of forks and spoons, sporks. I got it wrong, the child of forks and spoons. And plastic cups. All those things we have alternatives for. City agencies will shift to compostable or reusable materials by the end of 2019. So by the end of this year, that shift will happen. And we will reduce our single-use plastic foodware by 95% right away. Now, I want to be very clear. There are some important exceptions. There will still be plasticware for medical uses, for emergency uses, and for those who need them, including people with disabilities who have that particular need. So we have to be very clear about the exceptions, and we're going to make sure those exceptions are honored. But the vast majority of those plastics can go, and they can go quick. We're also going to be working with the City Council to take the next step, to pass legislation to expand this effort to the private sector, and we intend to pass that legislation by the end of this year. We not only need to stop using plastic foodware as the city government, we need to get plastic foodware out of restaurants, out of stores. We need to get it out of our lives. And we'll be working with the council to get that done. This is part of a series of actions, and you're going to be seeing a lot more. Here in this city, we led the fight to get rid of plastic bags. Here in this city, we led the fight, and we succeeded in getting rid of styrofoam. We were one of the first cities to say we would honor the Paris Agreement and cut emissions 80% by 2050, regardless of what our federal government does. But we're also going farther. We are suing the big oil companies that did this to us, and they should pay for what they did to the people of this city. We are divesting our pension fund dollars from fossil fuel industries. $5 billion we are taking away from the fossil fuel industries. We are investing billions more in renewable energy. Take away from the bad, give to the good. That's what we're doing. But today, this step alone that we're taking today and we're announcing will reduce the city's carbon emissions by 500 tons per year. It will move us closer to zero waste in our landfills. It will move us closer to having a day when Araceli and generations after her can live in peace, knowing that their earth is healthy and safe for them.